Welcome back to Crescent City Community College to work on getting your master's in the Maasverse. Our current course is focused on Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath by Sarah Janet Maas. Today we're chatting chapters Prologue through Chapter 8.
Warning, while we may be your silly gal pals, we don't recommend listening to this podcast around little ears or ears that may be offended because we say bad words and shitty things. Reminder that thoughts, feelings, theories, and things we say can evolve, change, be debunked, or just be completely off the rails. Literally on our Maasverse Masters, my view on the Queen with Many Faces books changed. So regardless, it's all for fun. It's not that deep, especially since we will be tailoring our theories to the current book. So Blake, what did you first rate House of Sky and Breath?
So the first read through, which was June, I think, of last year, I gave it a 5, and it was my favorite book of the series. And I'm going to keep it at a 5. You?
I also gave it a 5, and it was the only one, but it was solely for the last line of the book. But I give it a legitimate 5-star now.
Yeah, it's not like a fake 5, it's a real 5.
Yeah, no, I really have so much fun with this book now. So I'm really excited to get into it. So relax those shoulders, unclench that jaw, clench that clam, and let's get into it. All right, let's get into the prologue. So this book starts talking about some random gal we don't know named Sophie, who's at the Kavala death camp that is guarded by dreadwolves. Her destination is the Port of Servas, which would be easy had it been just her, but it's not. It's her plus 5 boys and 6 girls with her 13-year-old brother. Sophie is a human who made the drop. She is technically veneer, but not. Her parents encouraged her to make it for healing abilities and extra armor. She did it in some sketchy shop by a satyr. She, along with the tiny humans, all had rebel parents that had been caught or sold out. I have to say, why are satyrs so sketchy in this universe? First, Danica breaks up a fight between one and a Night Stalker. Then there's the salt-selling satyr in the meat market. They're carved into the stone pillars at the White Raven. And now this back alley satyr drop artist. And I think they're the real villain here.
I just need you to know that I literally thought it was satyr this whole time. I didn't know it was satyr. I thought it was a satyr.
I was unclear. But then I heard it in the book, but I've also double checked Google.
I believe you. I just literally did not know until right now. So
This is an educational podcast.
it sure is. But I do picture a bunch of satyrs sitting at home being pissed off about the bad apples ruining their reputation because of this book. You're like, God, these guys, knuckleheads.
They're sketchy bitches. Sophie spent 3 years searching for her brother and worked through the Ophian ranks to do it. I said that really weird. And worked through the Ophian ranks to do it. Even though Sophie was human, she wasn't really since she made the drop. So Ophian would never truly trust her, but she made sort of allies with Pippa, leader of the Lightfall unit. Pippa helped Sophie, but deaf for her own gain. Sophie was able to get into the Kavala death camp, to the Kavala camp where her brother was. But she also had some dirt on the Asteri, and Ophian knew it. She found the right moment to sneak into her brother's bunk and break out the camp with him and the surprise, 11 other littles. Naturally, while running to their escape van, the sirens went off and dreadwolves were after them. They made it to the van and its driver, Agent Silverbow, then hauled ass to Servast. It's a little rhyme. They made it in 30 minutes, but knew the Hind was close by. Not only was she close by, Sophie ran right into the lights of an Asteri vehicle and saw the Hind leaning against another vehicle. We truly meet Lydia Servos, deer shifter with blonde hair and amber eyes, known as the Hind in this moment. I love that it says amber eyes. I wrote this, and now I'm immediately thinking about how the cover has an amber eye as well as the third book. Specifically just one.
This one. Interesting.
Fun fact. But because we can't help ourselves, the name Servo has Italian origins where it directly translates to deer in English.
Also, because we can't help ourselves, Sophie comes from the Greek Sophia, which means wisdom, skill, and knowledge, which makes sense because she obviously has information she's guarding. And Renast appears to be a surname with French origins, derived from the Old French word renastir, meaning rebirth or renewal, which, considering she made the drop and became something new, immortal, it works.
That's so clever. Clever girl. Sophie was running her biscuits off to make it to the boat, but first she took the power she gathered earlier and unleashed, blowing her secret load, letting everyone know she was a Thunderbird. She was eyeing the distance to the boat that had already taken off, and the Hind asked if she was faster than a bullet. Turns out she was not and got shot in the thigh. 4 Omega boats showed up to go after the boat Graven, her escape boat. So the Asteri had long hunted most Thunderbirds to extinction. Thunderbird gifts were that of electricity and first light power too. Energy of any type was hers to command, to suck into herself. That's what she said. She could literally make them wink the fuck out.
I wanted to look and see what I could find with Thunderbird mythology, and this is what I came up with. The Thunderbird is a significant mythological creature in various American Indian cultures, particularly among tribes in the Midwest. Often depicted as a giant bird capable of carrying immense weight, the Thunderbird symbolizes both natural power and supernatural abilities. In many traditions, it's associated with thunder and storms, believed to create thunder by flapping its wings and lightning by shooting from its beak. It's said to have a dual nature and be both a creator and a destroyer. The Thunderbird brought the rain, but also caused destructive storms, battled whales, and turned people to stone. This is thought to show the Thunderbird as a sort of trickster figure recurrent in many mythologies. They were described as powers of the upper world. Thunderbirds wage perpetual war against aquatic spirits of beneath world, often portrayed as malevolent serpents or felines. There's a lot of this that kind of tickles my brain. The trickster in nature part, I feel like this could fit Sophie. She obviously wasn't honest about a lot. Plus, saying that they're in a perpetual war against aquatic spirits of the beneath world, you could relate it to how we believe there could be rifts and trenches under the ocean that lead to hell, aka the beneath world, which makes you wonder why the Steri wanted them 86 so bad.
I wonder if we'll find out.
Who's to say?
Turns out that crazy gal Pippa is there too, watching from afar though. She wants to know if Sophie and that dirty secret she carries are on the ship. Pippa and her commander are talking about how the boat would likely get blown up instead of saving the children when all the lights went out in Georgia. And then a bright white light took out the electricity of all the Omega subs. No more brimstone missiles on the radar either, and the boat Graven made it out safely. Back on the land, the Hind walked up to Sophie Renas, asking who she has shared her intel with. Sophie says no one, but they go on a boat ride out to sea. The Hind pulled out a small white stone from her pocket, lifting it for Sophie to see, and then chucked it into the water and told her, at that depth, you'll likely drown before you hit the seafloor, while binding Sophie's feet with chains and lead blocks. They gave her the boot off the boat, a gift to Ogenis. Now, put a pin in that side story. I want to get right into maps in the Maasverse and overlapping worlds. We have to go back to Throne of Glass. So Calicola is right in between both the coastal towns of Banjali and Inish. I think Inish from Throne of Glass is Servast. Servast is described as mist wreathes the narrow docks of Servast, riding over the chill, night dark waters of the Haldron Sea. It wended around the ancient stone houses of the port town, the first light in the few lampposts above the cobblestone streets flickering. Similar to when Selena from Throne of Glass was in Inish. Selena hated the heavy blanket of mist that shrouded the night and day. Then, when Sophie and co were escaping, it says they hurried through the fence and across the muddy road to the dense ferns and the steep gully beyond. What is a gully? A gully is a landform created by running water, mass movement, or both, which erodes soil to a sharp angle, typically on a hillside or in a river floodplains or terraces. What is right next to Calicola? A river, which can easily be this gully. So Calicola was worse than Endovier. The camp that The camp was expanded because they had so many slaves there. It was expanded more towards Elwi. So the OG camp is closer to Inish than Banjali. I initially thought Servas could be there too, but Morath could be Alcine, where vital deposits for the spine are made, because Morath means small mountains, and in comparison to the White Fangs behind it, Morath was little and is smaller on the Aurelia map. Part 1, The Chasm. Shit gets real. Chapter 1. Bryce was at the ballet to see Juniper, who was the star of the night's performance. Before the show started, she was looking at the ancient statues with their parents while people were looking at her. She was kind of a big deal and a princess. Her mom asked if she could get a job there with the ever-changing art, but there were no openings. They looked at the art while Bryce's mom told her that she didn't like Bryce working so close to that sexy Thotton King. Her mom wasn't understanding why Bryce wasn't working for her cool-ass old boss. Jessica, of course, hid her library and everything else was in crates. There really wasn't a job for her.
Okay, it's an educational podcast, so let's get into Crescent City Community College art history. So we track the art in the series for a multitude of reasons. It gives us answers on timelines, sometimes foreshadowing, and fills in bits of history. First, Bryce is looking at statues of all the gods, and she says that she swears they're looking back at her, which I don't know why, but it instantly reminded me of when Dorian and Selena are traveling back from Endovier to Rifthold, and she was staring at the stars, and they said they were staring right back at her. That's probably reaching, but immediately in my head, that's what I thought. Then a fey male stood poised above an anvil hammer and raised skyward in one fist, lightning cracking from the skies, filling the hammer, flowing down toward the object of the hammer's intended blow, a sword. Label: Unknown sculptor, Palmyra, circa 125 BE. The making of a sword was in the old language of the Fae. So I believe this is our first introduction of Thur. We talk more about him in chapter 8, but that is where I got with this. Then we have one from the First Wars that showed an army of winged demons swooping from the skies upon a terrestrial army gathered on the plain below. This one is about Hell's armies arriving to conquer Midgard during the First Wars. Reminder that art can be used as a tool for propaganda, like this one. A piece that was a part of a larger collection. It had 7 princes of hell looking in envy upon Midgard and unleashed their unholy hordes upon our united armies. We also get a JJ sighting, aka Jelly Jubilee. A Pegasus charging into battle, an armored figure, helmet and obscuring any features, rode with its sword upraised. First Wars. Which, just a reminder, there are other Pegasus in the Maasverse. Helion, the High Lord of the Day Court, has 7, which are rare, and they used to be a shit ton, but most had just vanished, as if they had been devoured by the sky itself. And guess where they came from? The island the prison sat upon. They had once fed in a fair meadows that had long given away to mist. Dun, dun, dun.
All of these pieces of artwork are foreshadowing
Mm-hmm.
for later in the story. I love it. Bryce's sick new 8-pointed star scar hadn't faded, which she noticed her mom looking at it quite a bit as well. Her mom was really going for it tonight because she pointed out things were weird between Bryce and her lover. Bryce was happy with her job and happy with Hunt. They made it to their box seats, and Bryce just knew when Hunt arrived. The book says Bryce had developed a keen awareness of Hunt's presence, like scenting lightning on the wind. He had only to enter a room, and she'd know if he was there by that surge of power in her body. Like for magic, her very blood answered to his. Knowing that they claim mates in this book, this is interesting. Bryce had developed a keen awareness. We know with mates that there is a huge scent aspect. When they got sexual on the couch and she came but he didn't, she smelled him finally. Rain, cedar, salt, and pure lightning. But that was the only time. Hunt said she smelled good, like paradise, home, and eternity, but never her notes. He told us when she was on her period, but never what she smelled like. For example, in Throne of Glass, Aelin immediately smelled Rowan's slutty snow scent. Even Feyre was smelling Rhys's immediately when she wasn't covered in the filth of Under the Mountain. Rain, salt, and something citrus. No mention of scents when Sabine caught Hunt and Bryce neck nuzzling. So their scent trajectory is interesting. Through love, all is possible, I guess.
Really heavy on the
Really starting that.
really heavy on the developed. That was a very good catch.
Bryce was wet from how hot Hunt looked. They were gifted champs, and Hunt checked for drugs in her drink like a true gentleman should. Fury didn't sit with them since her and Juniper were going steady and had moved in together. I'm sure they've consummated their relationship, unlike Bryce and Hunt, who are bigger fans of sexual tension than sexual intercourse. They are choosing to wait until Feyre's birthday. Weird way to celebrate her, but okay. 4 months to go. Hunt could smell her thinking about their consummation countdown while they were with her parents, for God's sakes. Well, good thing the star went off at that moment. Her and Hunt used team effort to cover up her bright light. Everyone was ready to bounce, but Bryce got it under control, so she was able to watch her friend's grand entrance. I don't know why people choose to wait for sex. Like, sexual compatibility is very important. Like, release your inner slut ambition. Like, I just don't get it. Ryan made me wait. I was pissed.
For how long?
A week.
I was expecting something a lot longer than that. I made John wait 3 weeks.
Says a lot about me.
Chapter 2. Bryce and Hunt decided to drop into Rune's house party, which honestly seemed like a great time. The whole gang was there. Rune and the boys, Fury and June were giving Bryce shit for her ridiculous idea of waiting to bang it out until solstice, which she is very much regretting, with Hunt swaggering around with his backwards hat. So Bryce says how Fury could wear leather in this heat was beyond Bryce. What if the reason Fury can wear leather in this heat is because she's naturally cold? Maybe because she's a descendant of hell? Once again, we do not know what type of veneer Fury is. It's rude to ask. They don't even know what house she belonged to or what magical power she had. Often described in a way related to night, like liquid night, reminder of the connection in ACOTAR where Lord Thanatos was having issues with his daughter, which we know Thanatos is a prince of hell, specifically the ravine. We know hell is cold due to all the run-ins with the princes. There is another person in the Maasverse who also seems to run cold. Spoiler alert, his name is Azrael. Truly can't wait to get more into Fury and her shenanigans this book, but I feel like that was just a weird detail to put in there.
It's like, am I a princess of hell because I'm cold right now? With the
Mhm.
heating my face is so cold.
I mean, it tracks. So yes.
I do want to note that Hunt catches Fury watching Bryce after they had joked about her being a super magical starborn princess. Why is Fury watching her? Like, why is she suspicious of her friend?
I think she's a double agent.
Don't be suspicious.
Don't
Don't
be
be
suspicious.
That's Fury's song.
That is. It's her theme song. Hunt was being a respectful guy with honoring her wishes for wanting to take it slow, but he was living with perpetual blue balls every minute of his life, and it was a hard, that's what she said, way to live. He knew she was putting the brakes on them for the survival guilt that she felt and not allowing herself to be actually happy. Hunt felt it too, on top of the constant dread and worry about what this dairy was going to do. While at the party, they got the news of new archangels tapped to replace Micah and Sandriel, who currently shared Rodinia with Jacob, will take Sandriel's old spot in northern Pangera, and Celestina, who has overseen Nina, which has a population of like 50, but she's more of a figurehead because the Legion is controlled by this dairy and are watchdogs for the Northern Rift. Hunt says she's a nice rep, and Fury confirms she's never heard anything bad either. Hunt is feeling negative about the appointment, but Bryce seems to have some positive hope for Celestina. Why are you smiling? What did I say wrong?
You didn't say anything wrong. I'm just thinking about, like, so there's angels in the sky flying around. Like, do birds not exist in Crescent City? Because you know how there's the theory that, like, birds aren't real here
No,
in this world. You've never heard that theory that birds aren't real? Like, it's a government hoax?
no.
Oh my. Okay, so totally a theory that birds aren't real, like conspiracy theory. But I'm thinking, like, are birds real? in Crescent City. This is what I thought about because, like,
Well,
naturally.
while talking, noticed you smiling profusely.
Because I was like, are they a conspiracy theory in Crescent City too?
I'm like, did I say something wrong? Because I figured I just.
No, you're perfect.
Okay, thanks. Fucking birds. It doesn't stop.
But are birds real in Crescent City?
So, anyways, we're told the two new replacement archangels, Ephraim and Celestina. So I thought we shall do some research. Ephraim is a Hebrew name meaning fruitful, fertile, and productive, which, considering the series plans, seem to be pretty right on the money. In the Bible, Ephraim was Joseph's second son, blessed by Jacob to become a great nation, become the founder of the major Israelite tribe, often representing the northern kingdom of Israel. Sarah Jana often uses biblical references, specifically Old Testament, because she's Jewish. I don't think it was for naught that she chose the name Ephraim for its meaning. Also, the fact that he is being sent to northern Pangera, when Ephraim in the Bible represented the northern kingdom of Israel. Plus, he used to share his old position with Jacob, which in the Bible was his dad. As for Rodinia, where he used to rule, Rodinia was a major supercontinent that assembled about 1.2 billion years ago and began breaking apart about 750 million years, containing most of Earth's landmass. It was Earth's first hypothesized supercontinent preceding Pangea, which, reminder, is we assume Sarah Jana got the name Pangera as well as Valbarra from the supercontinents. So that's a total of 3 supercontinent names. Then we find out Celestina will be coming to Lunathion. Celestina comes from Latin celestis, don't know how to say it, meaning heavenly or from the sky. She used to rule Nina, which in Spanish means little girl or baby girl. Does that make you think of Whitney? Probably. And it's Greek roots. And guess what, guys? Nina was a supercontinent that existed about 2.1 to 1.7 billion years ago. It was an acronym for Northern Europe and Northern America. That makes 4 supercontinents. So, yeah, we're an educational podcast, and you're welcome for all this supercontinent knowledge.
That's super fascinating because knowing that we learned in this book that the shifters and the fae come from other worlds, they're building like this super world.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little connection there.
Mm-hmm. Bryce tries to comfort Hunt and tell him everything will be okay. He tries to say Celestina could make their lives very difficult, but she's like, nay, nay, don't forget, I'm the super powerful and special magic starborn princess, and she would protect him. Bryce had been meeting with Rune once a week for magic lessons. Her magic manifested as starlight, a purely fey gift, and the magnitude of her power came from all those who had given a droplet of their magic to the gates over the years. Altogether, the combo magnified her starlight. So I thought we should take a look at where else we see starlight in the Maasverse. In Throne of Glass, it's mentioned a few times. When Elena appears to Selena, she is described as her body gleamed as though it was made of starlight. When describing Lorcan's eyes, Elide says there was some emotion she couldn't place, flickering like starlight in those black eyes. When Nezrin finds a short sword, she said the metal shining as if imbued with starlight that had word marks on it. The sword itself was an Asterian short sword, emphasis on Asterian. When Urine was trying to heal Erewhon, she ends up getting help from Dorian and his raw magic, and it was described as gasped and turned into starlight, into warmth and strength and joy. So that's our Throne of Glass mentions. Now in ACOTAR, it's mentioned quite a few times. In the Court of Thorns and Roses, Tamlin takes Feyre to a glen to swim in a pool of starlight. It is described as silvery, sparkling water, silver, but also has blue, red, pink, and yellow glinting beneath. It was light. Tamlin says he doesn't know where it came from. He never asked, and no one ever explained. Feyre asks what would happen if they were to drink it, and Tamlin tells her that legend claims you'd be happy until your last breath. Now, in A Court of Mist and Fury, Velaris is called the City of Starlight. Also, Feyre wondered would Rhys talk if it was true starlight that flickered in his eyes. When Rhys was training Feyre, he made darkness all around them, and then she let starlight dance on her fingertips. When Feyre has a rather intense orgasm, She wonders if the light pouring out of her was in fact starlight. And then when Nyx is born in a court of silver fucking, he was said to inherit both his mother and father's starlight.
You're so wrong for that. And when Nyx is born in a court of silver fucking.
Yeah, that's how. But you got what I'm saying? So I just wanted to bring up when starlight was brought up in the Maasverse. That's all. Hunt doesn't believe that the Sterry appointed a nice gal just because they have a soft side. Fury adds that the war is getting worse in Pangera, and Valbarra is a key territory full of vital resources. So a Mrs. Nice Spice leader doesn't make any sense. Juniper wonders if she will just be their puppet. Bryce is like, well, we won't know until your meeting tomorrow. And hey, Hunt, don't be a dick and start any fights. The foreshadowing.
Sarah loves a shadow of the four.
She does.
Chapter 3. Rune was high as a kite with a lady having a seat upon his face. He was providing his services, which sounded to be lovely, when Tristan Flynn burst in and told him to come downstairs and to bring his sword. Declan's security system picked up some anomaly, an aura, if you will. The front doors that were open darkened with shadows, and out stepped a golden-haired female while Bryce's scar blazed. That's it. That's the chapter.
That it really is. You didn't want to talk about Rune going down on this girl for 3 pages like the chapter?
It was several pages about him providing his services. That's how I know they sounded lovely. Good for him.
It was lovely.
He did think about his clothes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's some guilt in there.
As one would for a minute, and then he's like, nah, nay. She's not even talking to me.
That's a problem for another day. So I thought we'd do a pulse check on shadows in the Maasverse. At this point in the book, the other 2 series, there are characters with shadow magic. Cain in Throne of Glass had shadows leaking from him, the shadowy dark thing inside him, aka the Balga. The animal in the library, it moved like smoke and shadow. Maeve's other form was described. No one had lived to tell anything beyond shadows and claws and a darkness to devour your soul. So obviously Val came from darkness and were able to manipulate the shadows. Dorian has raw magic, and he can form different elements. He can manipulate shadows as an extension of his power, i.e. shadow hands. Just want to note that he often used ice and wind, which I can't help but notice that Cormac seemed to be using wind here when he got there. In ACOTAR, Reese can control shadows and darkness. He often will create illusions with them. Now, his shadow abilities are directly related to the Night Court, unlike our boy Az. Azriel, the Shadow Singer, he can control shadows. He can travel through and merge into them. He's able to use shadows for spying, and they communicate with him, as well as they respond to his emotions. Rune has shadow magic through his mother's line. He has the ability to manipulate shadows, which includes summoning and walking through them, and he can cloak himself and others in darkness. And now, Mystery Cousin has shadow magic.
Can you imagine the entrances you could make if you had the power of wind? Opening that door and it's just like flowing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be
Wouldn't it be a fun magic trick to have? Not magic trick, would be fun magic to have.
Well, especially if you're with someone with starlight too, because you could walk in with this entrance. It's like this, plus great lighting coming at you, and everyone's like, "Wow, she's pretty."
Oh my gosh, I want to be Bryce.
Yeah, I know. Bryce is cool as shit.
Just not smoking, so she's not as cool as she could be.
Yeah, she's not smoking, so maybe after book 3, she's like, I need to take up smoking.
It's just after book 3, she's like, what was that?
What is life? Just books. Chapter 4. Bryce's tit scar was glowing, and it didn't take a rocket scientist to know why, as a tall-ass fae that appeared out of the shadows was in front of her. Rune wanted to know what he was doing here, and the male with fancy pants accent said he had been invited. This mystery man was apparently Cormac. P.S. he's a blonde with an excellent sense of smell because he told Rune that he smelled like cunt. Important detail for some reason for me to tell you. Cormac was an Cormac was an Avellan Fae and was cousins with Rune and kind of Bryce. She didn't want to claim him on her 23andMe, and he's like, your light says otherwise. Cormac tells her that he is Rune's cousin directly through his mother's kin, but her daddy-o, King Einar, is Fae, and his line once crossed with theirs long ago.
So Cormac can say people smell like cunt and he like sounds cool, but I say it and I'm just a bitch? Double standards.
Always a double standard. It's not fair.
It's rude.
Maybe in 2026 you just do it, you know? Go for it.
I'm gonna test it out.
Let me know how it works out. So let's take a look at these two new names. Cormac has an interesting translation in Irish, son of the charioteer, or it could also mean son of the raven or son of corruption, which isn't giving a lot of hope for the king of Avellan. On top of a raven nod, which we tracked in book 1, and then Einar name meaning is a Scandinavian Old Norse name that means one warrior, lone warrior, and one army leader. I do find it interesting he doesn't go by his government name and he's just the Autumn King.
It's also interesting that Bryce's mom was able to keep his name out of her mouth for 12 years. And I wonder if there was like some sort of like taboo on his name, like he'd be able to find them really easy. I mean, he can easily track them, but you know, like that appearance or something.
Like she's worried spies will hear or something like, oh no.
Yeah.
Or it's like Voldemort. If you say it, then people will show up and get him.
That's my first thought was Voldy.
They ask Cormac why he's here, and he drops a fucking bomb. He is here to meet his bride and mucks a bow to Bryce. Bryce finds this hilarious. Cormac tells her that it isn't funny business, and it's been decreed by the Autumn King and the High King of the Avellan Fae. Juniper appeared from the living room archway with a gun in her hand, which seemed to intimidate our boy Cormac. Rune told him to skedaddle, and Cormac couldn't leave without a little dig that rumor has it the Star Sword sings to his bride. Bryce put him in his place and told him to leave, otherwise she would make him, aka use her pretty little light. Cormac was like, no bigs. I've seen all I have needed to see, which I guess he wanted to see with his own eyeballs that she had the gift, and was like, see you at the altar. Bye.
Titles are interesting. There's the Autumn King and the High King of the Avellan Fae. When have we heard the term High King? Well, Hybern had a High King. In A Court of Silver Flames, we learned the sword Gwydion had belonged to a true Fae High King in Prythian, as there had been in Hybern. He had united the lands, its people, and for a while, with that sword, peace had reigned, until he had been betrayed by his own queen and his fiercest general, and lost the sword to them. And then the lands fell into darkness once more, never again to see another High King, only High Lords, who ruled the territories that had once answered to the king. And then Amren told Reese he could be the High King with all 3 blades that Nesta accidentally made. Reese then asked her, why do you want me to turn conqueror? Amren asked back, why do you shy away from the power that is your birthright? I've always thought that was a curious thing for Amren to say to him. Reese is very against it, though. I just want to plant that seed and we will get more into High Kings later.
Yeah, that's definitely a nugget, a little clue for us with Reese's birthright for sure. Bryce was ready to get her parents out of Dodge early. Juniper was scrolling the social medias to make sure any of the secrets were let out of the bag. Thankfully, due to everyone being scared of Fury, they were not. They start getting the deets about Rune's ordeal, and Cormac was, in fact, the cousin that almost killed him. Cormac wasn't a happy camper that he spent his entire life studying the Star Sword, and then for Rune to get it, and now his fiance also has claim to it. Bryce was hoping there was a way out of the engagement. Mark and Declan were on the case and would update her when they found one. Bryce seemed overly calm about the whole thing, but that's just because she was trying to figure out what the Autumn King's angle was. The mention of Rune's eye color being so blue it was almost violet made me miss my favorite High Lord, for sure. I miss him.
Good thing we get to talk about Reese like a lot.
We sure
Because
did.
there's so many comparisons.
Bryce and Hunt had a team meeting discussing what the Autumn King was up to and how their day got royally fucked pretty quickly. They walked home, and as soon as they got in her hallway, she could smell blood. When they opened the door, they found Ethan Holstrom bleeding all over her wood floors. Fucking Ethan.
Bryce's apartment just cannot catch a break from blood.
I know. She's like, lay off the white couch, you fucks.
Chapter 5. Therian was definitely channeling Hannah Montana, saying everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has those days. Ending up on the Haldron Sea looking for a body definitely qualified as one of those days. It's not his fault. He was such a hottie to everyone, and that bothered the River Queen's daughter. They were looking in a trench in the Haldron Sea. The captain told Therian that the odds were slim, my guy. Guess whose body he was hunting? That random girl from the prologue, Sophie the Thunderbird.
It reminds me of Pedro Pascal when he was wearing a pink sweater and he did the truth test thing. And he's like, have you ever looked at fan accounts of yourself? And he's like, yes, all the time when you feel sad. And
That's 100% Therian, but also when he's happy.
Yeah, he just likes to get fluffed up a little bit, you know? I'm sure it does. He's a big fluffer. So, we're back in the Millinois Trench, guys. And we got some interesting tidbits about it. Therian says this northern stretch of the Haldron Sea was different. It sucked the life from one's bones, its grayness creeping in to the soul. He describes this ocean as having a viciousness and bellowed and rage. He then goes on and said this is where Vict was dumped off at, and I quote, the Wraith's shoebox-sized hellhole. Now, Kai and I both made the case for the Millinois Trench being some type of portal to hell. We know that oceans often separate realms, so I feel like pretty much married to this theory. Even the fact that he says there are flurries of floating bits, I do know it's because I just watched Stranger Things that I'm like, yep, it's the upside down. We're getting closer to a portal. But it makes sense to me.
The floating bits kills me. I'm like, yuck.
I know, like, ew.
Just makes me think lady bits.
Nah. Or like big whale sperm just floating bits around in the Haldron Sea. That was not necessary, and I apologize to everybody for that.
That was like something that would come out of my mouth, not yours.
I'm sorry. Everybody has those days, you know? Everyone makes those days.
I'm going to move it right along. We're going to pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah, sorry.
Not only was Sophie a Thunderbird, but she was a rebel spy. And if Therian was caught, it would not be a good look for the River Queen and him. They had to be super sneaky. He was being punished for making the River Queen's daughter cry, but also his fault for taking her maidenhead and becoming betrothed to her. Yikes on bikes, Therian. Everyone makes mistakes, but you strike out left and right in this book, bud. Sometimes you need to realize it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And at tea time, everyone would agree. Anyway, he's been dilly-dallying and avoiding this marriage for 10 fucking years. Therian spent more time continuing to do just that and scan the whole area for a body. They found lead blocks, but no body. 3 hour, I almost did no body, no crime there, just to keep it with the music. but they found lead blocks, but no body 3 hours later. He lets the River Queen know the haps, and then she tells him to find the brother because if she's alive, she's probably heading for him. The River Queen saying, then either someone got there before us or Sophie is alive. Interesting that the water did not whisper of that as if it were silence. It's like, duh, the water knows you're a bitch. Not a cool one either. Like, you won't catch that loser ripping a say.
No sig ripping. I don't like the River Queen. I also,
bitch.
I want you to know the whole time, I'm like, okay, so if the upside down and its bits in there, is that the Mind Flayer's sperm just floating about?
You can really just get pregnant in the air there.
You sure can.
So is that how whales get pregnant? They just go in the water and it's a pray and spray situation.
Yeah, like the no, I'm not doing that. Just let that.
This has gone too far.
Chapter 6. Bryce and Hunt were being a dynamic duo trying to help the bleeding Ethan and get to the bottom of what happened to him. Apparently, Sabitch didn't take too kindly to Ethan defending Bryce in an article, and they beat the shit out of him and kicked him out. And then Amelie's little sister brought him to Bryce's. Bryce tells Ethan he has no choice and he's staying there, and then handles another matter and convinces her parents to leave earlier than expected.
They were really trying to make a statement with having the Omega drag Ethan there, but the little bitch deserved it. Just because I hate him, not for what he said. Reminder that Omega in a pack is the lowest ranking, not to be confused with the Omega subs that were mentioned earlier. Important distinction.
I was literally about to say important distinction. Bryce says that Ethan will sleep in her bed with her, which Hunt is feeling a lot of jealous feelings about, more jelly-bellied than her engagement to Cormac. Bryce and Ethan end up having a middle-of-the-night heart-to-heart. She confirms that it was true that Danica was her anchor for the drop, but the pack of devils also helped. Ethan tells Bryce that Connor loved her more than anyone, and he believed that she was his mate. She admitted that she did love him too. Let's take a look at mates in the Crescent City world. So shifter mates believe in a one true lover, predestined. They believe a mate was a bond deeper than marriage and beyond an individual's control. Angels, their concept was more akin to marriage, but mating could be arranged. We'll be talking about mates in Crescent City a lot more, the more that we read through this series. But Kylie, do you believe in this world you can have more than one mate?
Yeah, I do. Because you know what? There is multiple species here, so why choose?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's
Did you know that's where I was going to go?
I actually didn't know that's where you're going to go, but yeah, I like it. Plus, there's a lot of things that change in this book that could cause Erd to maybe push them in a different direction.
Or, somebody grabs fate by the balls and is like, I'm doing it myself.
Mm-hmm. True.
Chapter 7. Rune is not thrilled at this whole engagement situation. The Thotham King does not care, though. He's like, everyone's getting married up in this bitch. You will marry Hypaxia and Bryce to Cormac. Cormac then shares that Hypaxia has a half-sister and is a necromancer, aka someone who can speak to the dead, just like her mom. Rune's like, cool, no biggie. Cormac is like, hold my mead. Her half-sister is the hind. Daddy Thotham steps in and is like, that doesn't matter, and you guys are doing what I say. In a firm dad voice tells them that there will be no more debate. But Rune has to get one more in and is like, Bryce and Athalar are together, The Thotham King just tells him that they don't smell like it. After bickering about power, he says that Bryce has one good value, and that is her good old womb room. Once again, talking about smells, can you imagine everyone knowing like you just had sex and potentially like with who? There would be no way you could be a sneaky slut.
No. Having a blackberry curve would not help you, like you couldn't get away with the side chick.
Cormac brings up weakening bloodlines, just like his daddy had before. Then Rune asked if this was really about the war, but Daddy just says no, power in the bloodlines. Cormac leaves, so Rune asks, why are you doing this? Then Daddy Thotham King is a dick because he says Cormac is the son I should have had, not the one I was burdened with. Fucking rude. Sounds like something my birth mom would say.
She's like, I wish I had Blakely.
I mean...
Chapter 8. Their first morning as the new and improved Three's Company debuted in the apartment. Bryce let Hunt know if shit hits the fan with the new Archangel, she was just a call away. Bryce and Ethan reminisced, and then Ethan and Hunt had a pissing match. Hunt definitely held a grudge for Ethan being a little bitch to Bryce for years and let him know it. Ethan was like, Connor loved her for 5 years, and at 5 years, he finally got her to agree to a date. You're at month 5. Good luck, bro. Brutal. But this didn't help me like Ethan anymore. I like that he defended her in the article, but I still find his behavior to be so shitty after everyone that died that I'm Team Hunt in this fight.
He's really fucking insufferable, and he just gets worse progressively throughout the book. Like, you're not cool standing up to Hunt. And I just really want to say, like, he really doesn't get any better. I'm I'm halfway through book 3 and like he's so awful. Ethan is so awful.
Yeah, who
So
knows?
if anybody has some redemption qualities on him, like let me know so I can look for them.
Bryce called Jespa for her third question of the week, asking about a piece of art she needed answers on. Jespa spills the beans that she heard about Secret Beans, aka that Bryce has a fiance. Her spies let her in on it. Bryce is like, cool, but any insight as to why the Sodom would try to ruin my life? And Jespa gives her this quote: males will always try to control the females who scare them. Marriage and breeding are their go-to methods. She goes on that she believes the Sodom. But wait, when she said that, do you picture her sitting at her phone, like smoking a cigarette, or just me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's sitting there on a cord phone for sure.
She's lighting it up. Wink, wink. Get it? I'm sorry. I apologize for that. She goes on and she believes that Sodom got bored waiting and is forcing her to react. Jespa presses on, giving her a semi-compliment that she's more like her brother than she realized. She hasn't succumbed to the allure of being the chosen one. She follows up with, so, you aren't doing anything with your talent or the horn? She's like, nah, my power isn't that great anyways. Plus, the Asteri told me to lie low forever, and Jespa hits her with a cigarette in hand. How terribly boring you to obey them. And then, even a parting, don't be a cliche and refuse Cormac Donnell.
2 things. I want Jessica smoking, saying how terribly boring of you to obey them as like a motivational poster. Absolutely.
Fair.
I would be motivated. And then Jessica calling me a good girl would be totally acceptable. I'd fangirl for days if she like hung up on me saying good girl. I love her.
I agree with that.
Nobody else though. Weird from anyone else.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. I might be okay with the Vipe doing it, to be honest with you. Just yeah, like the Vipe and Jespa would
Yeah, because she would do that. Such a good girl.
Uh-huh.
But there's no S in there. Well, it would be the both of us. So she'd be like, good girl.
Yeah. In her tracksuit. In her shitty office.
Do you have a Vibe Queen haircut?
Is that what you took to your hairdresser? Is the Vibe Queen?
I got to take up smoking. This is my only path to coolness.
It is, yeah, because this is all you
And
got.
a tracksuit. I need a tracksuit. Stacked.
You need a tracksuit, a cigarette, maybe bigger hoops. And then, yeah, start with a lisp as well with S's. So, I like the way you do it right where, Kylie? There. Okay, so we have what I think was a statue of Thur earlier. Now we have the first official time we talk about him. When Bryce calls to ask Jessica about him, this is what info she tells us. I've got a 9,000-year-old Rudinian bust of Thur here. Basically, a broody male who was supposed to pass for the nearly forgotten minor storm deity. All that remained of him in their culture was the behemoth of a planet named after him and Thursday. I do believe that SJM was inspired by Thor, the Norse god of thunder, lightning, storms, strength, and the protection of God and humans. He was known for his immense power, red hair, and wielding the mighty hammer, much like the statue from earlier. He was the defender of Asgard and Midgard. Yes, Midgard, which was the human realm. He was a central figure in myths regarding slaying giants and battling the Midgard serpent who died from its venom at Ragnarok. Now, this Midgard serpent is reminding me of the word I cannot say that your sister corrects me on.
Leviathan.
There we go. Leviathan statue that was at the Bone Quarter. Just some thoughts there. Now, Cormac. There we go. Cormac. So we get Cormac's last name for the first time, so naturally I looked it up. Donnell in Irish means world ruler, which I don't believe is by accident. Also, did you guys know that this is not the first time the name Cormac had been in the Maasverse? In Queen of Shadows, when Aelin comes back with red hair, it is because she was impersonating one of his top clients and investors, Hinsel Cormac, when she freed Aedion from jail. And then later, when Vernon was terrorizing poor Lead, a man named Cormac with red hair, same one, and a black collar around his neck, it was soon to be her betrothed. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. Or perhaps a family name? We have like 15,000 years in between, so who's to say? Thanks for giggling with us through our journey today. We have new episodes every Tuesday. Join us next week as we get into chapters 9 through 16 for Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath.
Make sure you follow us on social medias for our latest updates, theories, and more new book goofing. Don't forget to hit subscribe and give us a review wherever you listen. All links are in our info, you giggling gal pals. We will see you next week.